Hello, waiting for the sound for the music to stop. Welcome everyone. We are here. We are live. Me, Torbjörn Strand, and I have my partner here, Eva Axel. We are both belong to the same coaching network. I don't know actually what our relation is, but it's like we are both coaches, and we independent coaches. And today we have this live, which is about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. And just shortly about myself, I'm Torbjörn Strand. I help um, i- conscious, intuitive, introverted, highly performing um, professionals, highly educated people that want to have a better life in like a more balanced life, and so that they can stay away from burnout and exhaustion because they are in client facing positions, and that's very quite demanding for anyone, but especially more introverted people. And so that's what I do. And then I have Eva here also with me today, and Eva is a empowerment coach and psychologist, and she has credentials as a certified professional active coach. It's a really good certification. I also read about co-active coaching, and that's really great. I love that framework and approach, and also a psychologist. And you have Eva has 10 years of experience with HR and coaching, and helping people with career, and also with more like you call this psychological coaching. Or what you have different many views, and you can explain more about what you do. uh, but that's just shortly about you. So over to you, Eva. Happy to have you here.
Yeah, hi Torbjörn. I'm happy to be here in this live event, and yes, I'm doing various coaching approaches to help my clients to navigate through work-related issues, from job search strategies to burnout, stress management, and many other factors that can play out in the work life, and finding them to be more in a balanced way, and helping them to have a life that's more in line with their values as a whole.
Yeah, it sounds like I understand what you're saying, and seems like we are doing kind of the similar things, things we are interested in, and see the value of. And that's what we're talking about today: intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, and trying to keep it quite simple and understandable for, let's say, a beginner or like a person that's not so much aware. Because I know how it is, and based on when I heard you talk about what you do, you can easily stay in that, let's say, on a higher level. You are developed and you understand the reason. Like there's a journey you go through. You have like surface level things like, what do I like to do? What kind of work? What kind of person am I? And then you go to more to that. What's really valuable is like the values and motivations, and more deeper psychological things, because y- working and job search and career development is very much connected to psychology and all that stuff. So when you are interested in it, it's easy to just to be very, let's say, advanced, or it's not easy to understand as a beginner, or not aware.
Yeah,
So
I will
sorry.
try to keep it simple. Yeah.
No, yeah, we will try. We will. That's our goal for today.
Yes.
Um, so we. Yeah, one thing. Yeah, because we have intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. That's the topic. And wasn't it so that you have recently moved to Dubai?
Yes.
Yeah. And as has your move, has that something to do with today's topic?
Um, I have been moving around the region since actually it's been more than 15 years. I first set foot in Middle East, so it's I have been in the region for almost actually more than a decade. And I have worked in various countries, Qatar, UAE, and I have done the recruitment for all the Gulf countries at one point. And it was always really exciting to speak with individuals, how they and interview them for certain jobs and understand their motivation. And that's kind of where I felt really my intrinsic motivation coming in. At the same time, I was feeling that we could dig a little bit deeper in certain topics, and that's what kind of steered me into coaching, where I really feel that that's kind of the space where I can contribute the most to individuals, not only actually I can say life as a whole.
Hmm. And that's the big question, how you help, because life is so much, like what should you focus
Yes,
on, and
yes,
also during life you have different phases of what's important. Family
exactly.
can be more important, job can be more, like usually when you are like say around 20 to 40 years old, job is more important, most important, and friends goes before that, friends, and then that goes down, and but then family gets at one point. Usually what happens, the priorities, top five, there are also other areas. And so what everyone should have is like guidance throughout their life, in many areas, in all areas of life. And yeah, if you look at coaching, which has developed then from more mental health psychology, like we have had mentors, we have had guides, we have had like heroes we look up to, and philosophers and religious also, characters and persons, and also religion as guidance. And then we have after that like psychology therapists, which was just quite close and hidden for many people. And then now we have coaching, which is can be available for anyone. You don't have to have, it's like for people, doesn't matter if you are healthy or not healthy. Usually if you go to a in mental health or yeah, a therapist, you would need to have some kind of like the situation where your health is affected. But in coaching you don't have need to have that. Coaching can have that effect also, healing and getting to feel better. But it's also for the other part, from getting better and high performing, like I talked about yesterday, about high performing habits. And
Yes, and coaching tends to focus on the growth oriented aspect of life and the expansion, while therapy is more into stabilizing. But this is also kind of changing nowadays, that both fields are actually recognizing that they have a quite bigger space where they overlap. And like just from the ICF newsletter this month, they have published that quite a big proportion of clients are looking also a deeper aspect of coaching, which is incorporating some aspects of mental health as well. This is kind of leading away from the topic that
A little bit, yeah, in a way. And yeah, coaching for me has always been about mental health and well-being, because if you feel good, if you can achieve your goals, if you can like say, when we talk about today motivation and meaning, that creates a healthy person. And that's what I thought about before today around the topic we have, that it's difficult to just talk about one thing, uh, and sometimes it's possible, but about meaning, motivation, because in my head I just connected to so many other parts, but like words and things that are important. It's not, if you talk about only about motivation, you can do that, but you always has to remember that it's connected to other things also, things like meaning, values, strengths, like the reason for your motivation. That's what we are motivation, intrinsic and extrinsic. And what, because there might be people here that don't know the difference between extrinsic and intrinsic. You could also say, let's, it's internal and external motivation. So there is question. We have some questions that you could ask or think about for yourself. But maybe you should explain it first a little bit, and then we can ask the first question. I think that's better, actually. Yeah. So if I could start with explaining intrinsic motivation, and of course these kind of words can be explained in different ways based on where you're coming from. So the one that I have is a little bit connected to values, because you have motivation based on your values. But so the intrinsic part is that you have inherent human desire to grow and develop based on your own wants and needs and values. Because motivation, I don't think you can talk about motivation and without explaining it and using other words that would mean, like, motivation. What's motivation? There's something motivating you. And in this about intrinsic, it can be things like your values and strengths. And the thing is that these are chosen freely by you. In a way, they come from you and not from the outside. So that's the intrinsic part. And you're not doing what another person, another group are telling you to do with intrinsic motivation. And still you can have the same values as your country and your group and your peers, but still you have your own unique internal strive for doing something. So yeah. So if you explain a little bit talk a little about extrinsic motivation, and see if we understand it better.
Yeah. So the extrinsic motivation is about is a behavior or a set of behaviors that aims for a certain goal or benefit. What these can be like, is it financial when we talk about, for example, workplaces, and or recognition, or there could be other extrinsic motivation, which is another aspect of extrinsic motivation when we are the goal is to avoid certain punishments or negative consequences. Meaning that, for example, you are motivated to pay your bills in order not to be disconnected from electricity, for example. So that's also an extrinsic motivation that kind of can play a role. For example, in workplace, you can see that, let's say, everyone is coming 8 o'clock in the morning, then you will be also kind of motivated to incline to come around 8 o'clock, just not to be an outsider, so to say, from that custom. So these are also so that's more towards an avoidance of consequences, while the other one is more towards benefits, like getting your bonuses at the end of the year, or getting a recognition, and by that getting a promotion. So these are the different aspects of extrinsic motivation, but we can explore these a bit later as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like how I see extrinsic motivation is that it's your ego is more involved in that kind of motivation, and it's also more influenced by social comparison, like you said, that if all other people are coming to 8 o'clock, like it's you make a decision. Do I want to do that also? And you're maybe a little bit pressured to fit in to also come to 8 o'clock. There's a comparison there. So then, if you talk about intrinsic motivation, that's like if you want to come at 9 o'clock or another time at 8, then that's your preference, and then you do that. So like in this example, the intrinsic or the extrinsic motivation might be stronger. The intrinsic is that I want to come at 9, not 8, and the extrinsic is that I should come when all other people are coming, and that might also be good. Like, but in that example, both are good. It's just
Or I can say, like, I want to come at 8, disregarding of this example, or I want to come at 7 o'clock to clear my mailing list, for example, and be ahead and prepared for the day. So that's another example of intrinsic motivation for this. If we take this as an example, like being motivated to prepare for the day and get ready.
Yeah. That's a good example of that. Let's see if this question works here now. About what type of motivation motivates you more at work, and these are example of intrinsic and extrinsic. So you think about this. You don't have to answer here live because I don't see all chat comments, but on all the platforms. But if I see if we see some comments, we can answer them right away. But if you're looking at the recording, and if you're just looking at it now, you can think about what's type of these things. For example, motivates you at work, and if there's some other type of factors, you can think about is the intrinsic or extrinsic. And yeah, why then would you say that, Eva, that it's important to think about and know how you are either intrinsically and extrinsically motivated, and when and how. Why would you say, why would it be good to know?
I think being intrinsically or extrinsically motivated has many aspects. So from situation to situation, you will be either this or that. So I think there might be a tendency at workplace that you are intrinsic or extrinsically motivated, whether you have a good employee engagement and you, for example, value the company's value, or it's how the company's value sets with your own values, that also provides a connection towards being more intrinsically motivated. But for example, it can in life vary from time to time, as I said. But what I think it's important to know is what's my tendency in terms of how I approach work and workplace in general. And this is important for you to know because it helps you to set your goals, set your expectations, and knowing also whether you are on the right track with your career choices or not. How much is this fulfilling my intrinsic motivation that I'm doing right now? Or what's the bigger picture when I choose the extrinsic motivators? And how is this, for example, serving me on the long run? Um, Whether, like, okay, I am here in this job to earn as much as possible, but I know that in 10 years I want to open my own business. So that's kind of like, yes, you are extrinsically motivated in this current situation, but there is a bigger picture where there is a purpose, which is leading to an intrinsic motivation. So it's much more complex, and I think developing more self-awareness is important for you to know whether you are in the right direction or not.
Mm, mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just excuse me here. Sorry. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we'll take this away. You can ask questions in the chat, um, and also in the recording. Under that, you can comment, and we can see that afterwards. Also, yeah. So about personal and career goals. Yeah, it's very important for that. Um, Work can have different meanings for all of us. Um, if you're more conscientious, I hate that word. It's difficult to say. Then, uh, like career is more can be usually more is more important for you, and also rewards, that you get recognition, that you are dutiful and do highly productive, uh, like for the sake of it. That's one thing. And that conscientiousness is a personality trait, and that influences you. And we're not going to talk about the different type of personality traits. I would like to just to say that companies also hire people with an expectation to follow their culture and goals and strategy and vision, and to be aligned with all of that. And then also you have to make the decision or reflect on, is this aligned with my intrinsic values and motivation, where I where I am working or where I'm applying for this position and job? and it helps in job search, um, because then you if you feel that it aligns, then it will show in the application and also in the interview, and obviously the interview, but also in the application. But then also, if you're looking for a career change, you might be don't know on this, you don't know why, but you don't feel good at your current position where you're working, and there might be something with the environment, the vision and the values the company has that is not aligned with what's important to you now currently. It might have been for 5, 10 years ago or longer, but your situation might have changed, and you start realizing this is not, it just feels not in alignment. And then this might be a reason for that, that the intrinsic and extrinsic motivation is not aligned. So I would say also that it's good, important that they are aligned, because the company might be going in a other direction than you are going, and then you start feeling like not so good. Get different type of things can happen, and I also, so I see that. And also, depending on, because we have also another aspect here. You we're I'm from from Finland and the Nordics, the Western Europe, Northern Europe, and we are like kind of the same as the American USA, not as extreme in certain aspects. But then your experiences, we don't, we have of course some inspiration from other parts of the world also, but the basis is that area that I explained, and we are quite individualistic, and but we also, companies expect you to be a part of their culture and fit in. And then we have the other aspect, if you have more collectivistic culture and country and part of the world, that has also an influence in this. um, so that's, I think it's interesting, because we might see this motivation in general, might have different views on that, not only scientifically or how you define them. We try to have it
And I
objective.
think, yes, I agree with you. And I think this can be even kind of further stretched with the way that there is an innate need for belongingness. Um, so even in an individualistic society, someone with a very strong intrinsic motivation can still feel undervalued if there is no, for example, external reward in place. So that's kind of also important to keep in mind that inequity can play a big role in whether you feel valued or not.
Mm. Yes. um, I'm just looking, checking if there's any messages here. Yes. And keeping track of all the parts. What we should move, go into, yeah, I think we talked about like the leadership and how that influences, like you said. And then what we other things, is there something, what's the natural part to continue from here? What do you say?
Maybe I think just going back to the like in the classic division, like the internal or intrinsic motivation has that innate need of purpose, joy, and fulfillment.
Mm.
So going back to that um, I think it's quite that with that there is an innate need for growth. And instead of the division between external and extrinsic and intrinsic motivation, and also whether how, for example, reward systems are hijacking intrinsic motivation or promoting extrinsic motivation. Instead of these kind of divisions, I think it's important also to look into what the self-determination theory explains, which is like um, there is there are three things that we are looking for to feel fulfilled, and one is competence. So feeling having the abilities, skills, and required experience to perform in that position that you are at. The other one, which is really crucial, is the autonomy. How are you able to feel that you have the right tools and autonomy to make decisions in that setting?
Mm.
And the third one is the connection, like how this is the need for being socially recognized, the being socially connected. So these are the kind of main drivers of motivation, and I think this is important how we raise our self awareness around these three aspects, and how this is played out in both the extrinsic and intrinsic motivation.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I've thought about that when you mentioned belonging. Um, the self-determination theory or model is simple in itself, but it's very, you can find so many examples from those three factors, and they also need some explanation. So I see that every, like many of these simple models are simplified, but then they are not enough. It's like if it's not enough that you understand those three basic things like autonomy, belonging, and competency. Yes, it's in a way simple to understand, but then there's so many examples, and but when you memorize it, you can start seeing it in your daily life, and that's, then it's very valuable. And yeah, and it connects well with motivation and different types of motivation. um, so I connect it in this way, perhaps like intrinsic, hopefully it connects well with that in intrinsic motivation. um, when you tap into that, or you enhance, you start thinking about your internal values and strengths and your will, and your around that, then it can, then you can start becoming more creative and more resilient, because you're also aware of your energy levels, and then you can also start leading yourself better. So for me, because I work with personal leadership, then for me personally, like the way I work, intrinsic motivation is much more important than, it's not that it would be better, but it's more important, because you need to start think, because if you want to increase your personal leadership, you have to start thinking about what you want. You have to know what you want and how you
Yeah,
function, and how, what kind of impact you want to create in the world, and what kind of life you want to have. So very important. And also, just to continue, and then you can talk a little bit if you have examples of extrinsic motivation, and how that can, how you can manage intrinsic rewards and motivation without becoming dependent on them. You could talk a little
yeah,
bit
yeah,
before you do that. There's also, you talked also about burnout, and if you don't have any awareness of your internal energy levels, and you can't say no to things. You are very compliant. It's not easy to have a to take care of yourself, and you have a risk of a burnout if you don't listen to yourself and you are not also following the way you want to follow. And that is for anyone, regardless of the environment they are in, because for some people are more, let's say, healthy, less stressed if they follow other people, and that's a personality thing, and also society of where you live. And so there are many impacts on that. And so, like, just my point is that when you start getting more self-aware and have intrinsic motivation, of course you can burn out then also, but you need to have some sort of level of that to balance yourself.
Yeah.
So yes.
Okay. So I'm not sure which part I should answer first. So is it the okay? So let me start with the extrinsic motivation and sometimes the benefits of extrinsic motivation. So it can mobilize an individual towards a goal very easily and very quickly. It's quite straightforward compared to the intrinsic motivation, where it can, as it is connected to a bigger value or value system, it can sometimes be a bit more challenging to nail down the direction. Um, and also, when it comes to going back to extrinsic motivation, so it's usually quite simply phrased, linked to either a financial benefit or an actual promotion or recognition. So very tangible forms that are present here. So it's easy to mobilize your energy and drive towards it. And this also, when we look at it from an organizational point of view, it can, yes, extrinsic motivators can create a healthy competition between employees. It can increase workplace productivity, and it can kind of generate interest towards accomplishing a goal faster, and get everybody on board. Um, at the same time, it can also get short-sighted and short-lived once these targets are accomplished. And also, when we look at it from maybe in other areas of life, for example, child raising, if you are heavily overusing extrinsic motivators, then it's kind of clears off the effect of those rewards when it's overused. So there are both good and bad sides of it, and going back to the topic that whether you can have burnout when you are intrinsically motivated or extrinsically motivated, I think burnout can happen to both sides. Like intrinsically motivated people can sometimes tend to be, for example, medical professionals, where they have a bigger purpose in place, like helping or curing illnesses, or like teachers, even with the purpose of raising the next generation. So there is a lot of aspect of it, which also brings in the sometimes almost the altruistic part of self, which serves as a platform to go much beyond the expected in these scenarios. But this is not necessarily true for every professional who is in either in the education sector or health sector. But there might be a tendency for this. Also, extrinsically motivated people can also feel burnout if they put just so much on their plate. And I think the key factor or piece in the burnout is how we are setting our boundaries and priorities in life in general. So, regardless what motivates you and what drives you, it's what's what will help you to pause, and whether you have that pause button in
Mm.
place and feel the signals, see the signals that are coming for such built up um, energy depletion.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Um, Burnout is it's common in the Western society, especially nowadays. It has been younger and younger people are experiencing burnout, and it's not there are a lot of things in that area to talk about, and I would like just so the listeners understand that burnout and intrinsic and extrinsic motivation is not directly connected, or might correlate, but it's not a, a result of it. They are not uh, cause, like low or high motivation is might not be a cause for burnout. That's not what I'm meaning.
Yeah, yeah,
It might influence it and affect it, but it's not the biggest driver for burnout or bore out, because there are a lot of people also that are experiencing bore out because the nature of their work is not very inspirational and motivational for them, and that bore out might be a better connection and explanation. As an example, that if you don't really like your job and all that, there's something with it. There might be something with the intrinsic or extrinsic motivation. You don't really get what you want from your job, and that's what we see also here. Um, that bore
yes,
out is can also happen, and it's a similar kind of thing.
yes. That's an interesting concept, and I think it kind of yeah, it's both like with extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. Like, where is the purpose? What's the purpose behind your work? And I think it also kind of connects back whether you have the autonomy as well to perform and have that independence to think and work in a way that gives enough room for creativity.
Mhm. If creativity is something you want more of, and
That's
more,
true.
because a very structure a person that likes to like to structure things and organize things, they wouldn't like to be so much in the creative phase. So it's like, for example, if when you develop a business and or a business idea or something like that, you have these entrepreneurial types that wants to just do we would want to develop an idea and create a business out of it, and then we have those yeah, also the executioner, they who execute and plan, no, not plan, but they organize it. And then we also have like the artists that are more the creative, that create the idea.
Mm,
They are very much interested in that process of creating the idea. Then if you have, at least you need to have three types of persons in that, because it starts often with the artists. You create the idea, then you have the entrepreneur that makes it into a business and develops it and just create the systems out of it. but it's too early for the planner or the structured person to be there in the beginning, because that person cannot function. It doesn't That person would hate to be there because there's no structure, and they want to maintain the activities. So that's also, yeah, to find what you're motivated from, how you function, and at what stage of a company should you work in, because a startup doesn't fit for everyone. Even though to work in a startup is very popular, but it's not for everyone. So, but we have like this idea that this is what I want to achieve. This is like high status, popular, and without knowing that is it for me, and what do I really want to do, which is more the intrinsic side. And then a good way is to find out and just to do it and try it. But then sometimes you can experience then that this doesn't fit you, and you believe that it's something wrong with you, but while it was actually about that you didn't understand your function, you were there at the wrong time or something. So it's just the bad thing, the why this is important is that uh, you might start thinking that, for example, there's something wrong with you. You don't know actually what's the reason why. This can be a simple explanation about what's important for you, how you are motivated, when we talk about work life. And just one thing about what you said about teachers and doctors and health professionals is that they you need to have some sort of intrinsic motivation behind that, the purpose or a personality trait that helps you. um, you yeah, like you don't have to, but usually those people have, like, otherwise they would become an engineer or they would become something, work with a different way. They want to do work with people and help them, and just usually then they have the intrinsic value. But then the nature of the work, especially now, is different, and then there's like the external demands are different, and they have to battle with this, and then that's why they also can get burnt out. And also, if they're like psychiatrists that experience burnout, anyone can do that, and they are expert on how it's how to take care of yourself and how it works. I read a book about a psychiatrist there. It was from Sweden that experienced burnout, and he understand what was happening. But when burnout happens, your body, the physical aspect, your body says stop, and then you can't proceed anymore. That's the first sign, and then you need to rest, and then you start work with your you have to start working with your mind, and how you experience, how you interpret thoughts and perceptions you get, because there's, like you mentioned, like that's how you explain it in a more cognitive way. But like you said, you have to then learn how to manage yourself, how to say no, and be- uh, how you can create a sustainable situation. And that's like individual for all of us. But those who experience burnout, they have certain personality traits also. And we try, even though we try to say that it's the environment, it's not the individual fault, it's not their fault, but it's their responsibility to manage themselves and take care of themselves, and start understanding when to say stop. Because they the nature of, let's say, a health professional is that they're endless of work, and there's like patient work, and then they also have to do of like paperwork, and too much is too much. And yeah, that's the risk. And like, so a little bit about, we're going to close up this live, because we have talked enough. we have talked enough about for today, and there's the some things about a little bit more about to change, to reflect on and be aware of the aspect or where you're coming from in motivation. Um, it goes into a little bit improvement, but we have also an idea that I want something more, I want something better, or not, like what's important for me. And there are two ways that if you there are need for self-esteem and need for personal growth. And if you want a certain job or money or a thing or a family or whatever, to increase your self-esteem, that will be, you're more vulnerable then, because when it goes away, the external thing, you will feel much more bad, because damage, it's connected to your self-esteem. And also, if you achieve those things, you are not really satisfied. So it might feel as an in, intrinsic motivation, but you do it because you want to improve your self-esteem, and that's not really good. uh, but if you come then from the aspect of wanting to do for personal growth, you have a completely different aspect, or like starting point and reason why you do it, um, which is not connected to your value. Is not the reason is not to feel good, to boost your boost your self-esteem, uh, and it's creates some, it demands some work to understand and shift the from improving self-esteem to self-growth. It's I don't know how many people know about this, but if you actually just try to improve your self-esteem and your also your self-confidence, and you focus on that, you will actually not achieve it. You have to do, then what you work with is your self-compassion, acceptance, and you shift your mindset and attitude to another one, which is another standing point. And I feel that's so interesting, but it's connected to this motivational that we're talking about today. uh, I don't know if you have can continue on that. If you can have, if you would like to give some closing words here, either overall or what I just said, or if you would like to say something more.
Yeah. I think it either if it's a behavior, if a behavior is driven by an extrinsic or intrinsic motivation, it's the it's not very important how so the importance is how where it connects to my greater values and purpose. So it doesn't really matter if I'm ticking the boxes for an extrinsic goal, or I'm driving towards a mission from an intrinsic point of view. The importance is like how this is connected to a higher purpose. And for that, I think you need to have some sort of or some level of self-awareness, what you were also talking about. And once that is in place, you can kind of steer yourself more consciously with your extrinsic and intrinsic motivators towards a goal that's aligned um, with your values on a much more consistent level.
Mm, 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 mm. Cool. That's interesting. I we would have to continue some other day with similar topic. I know it's better not to respond to that anymore today. Uh, like I said, there are a lot of other concepts connected to this, and they will naturally come. You will naturally talk about them when you talk about, for example, motivation. Uh, so that's how it is, and then you, of course, we as a professionals, we are often, we understand it and we understand what's important, but then it's the individual, what's important for the individual, and that's depends on their situation and their life stage and situation, what's important for them. So then it's like, okay, what should we focus on, what's important? So I have a question here, that what type of content would you like to see more of? uh, could it be leadership tips or work-life balance, coaching techniques? Like, would you be like, that's more like, how could it be beneficial for you? What's the impact on your life? What kind of impact could it be have on my life? um that, at least that. So the things we are talking about today, there are a lot of things, they are all connected, and there are many examples that, of course, might sound as it's not exactly what we're talking about, but they are connected. um, so that's about this. How, what do you say? um, how do you, yeah, for, I don't really have anything else to say. I would like to thank you for being here, and I can say that you can get in contact with me on LinkedIn. You can connect with me there if you happen to not be connected, if you are not connected yet, or you can follow me. I also have a community on School that you can check out, and where I, it's focusing on what I do, the self leadership and all that good stuff around. Like we say, I call it manifesting your life as a, with the with the demands of a more introverted person in client-facing positions, or as an employee, or in a business, if you would like to create another type of income and achieve your dreams. It's not so easy for a more introverted person. Uh, it's not easy for anyone, but you have different things that you need to work on, and that's my specialty, because that's my own history, and because I think you know, when you know yourself really well, then you can help others, people, uh, not exactly with the same thing, but you need to know yourself in order to know how you can help other people. So that's why, uh, that's how I see it. But yeah, so that's not enough about that. How can people connect with you, Eva, and what kind of closing remarks do you have?
Yeah, so they can connect me on LinkedIn. There are That's, I think, the easiest way. And as you also mentioned before, the self-awareness is critical for getting more um, purposeful on your journey towards a career goal, or even in life, other areas of life as well. So yeah.
Yeah, so I can show here, Sana had a comment. She said, insightful. I think intrinsic motivation is the most crucial, but both intrinsic and intrinsic motivation can work together. They do. Mm.
Yeah.
So that's one comment I saw here now. Thank you, Sana. Um, yeah, I don't see any other comments here, so we will end this live now today. And if you're watching the recording, you can still comment here under. And see you in the next one. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
today, and thank you, Eva, for coming here, sharing this time, so that we could share this time together. Yeah. Have a good day. Have a good week.